Greetings to everyone in this weekly Tuesday edition of Gaming Console News. The main highlights today are Sony celebrated the 30th anniversary of their console. Valve is not only developing a new Steam Deck, but also working on their own stationary console. Insider Bill Kuhn shared quite interesting information. A free version of Gran Turismo has been released for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And also, STALKER 2 is the game of the year. So, to stay tuned to the latest console info updates, check your subscription to the channel, make yourself comfortable, and let's dive into the latest event. The key news of the past week is the 30th anniversary of PlayStation. As is customary at such events, the company received congratulations from the entire gaming industry and handed out generous gifts. I hope you noticed these bountiful benefits from Sony in the form of free games, downloadable content, and other similar bonuses. And if you didn't notice, well, neither did I. Instead, they rolled out a free commemorative theme for PlayStation 5 dedicated to the 30th anniversary. Unfortunately, this is only a temporary customization for the PlayStation 5, but it might bring a nostalgic tear to your eye. You can choose a theme from each console generation, complete with unique and unforgettable background sounds. I was especially pleasantly surprised and nearly shed a tear when I turned on my PlayStation 5 and was greeted by the loading screen from the very first PlayStation. It's truly a worthy theme. It's just a pity that it won't be made permanent. In a recent series of posts on the social network X, insider Brad Lynch shared information about signs he believes indicate the emergence of a new gadget on the SteamOS platform. However, this isn't the new Steam Deck 2, but a fully fledged console. All mentions of Fremont, the codename for Valve's new device, relate to managing a full-sized Type-A HDMI port, typically used in consoles designed for TV connections and other desktop systems. Perhaps, riding on the success of the Steam Deck, Valve has decided to revive its not-so-successful Steam machine, which, with the new SteamOS, has great potential. Incidentally, Quanta Computer, the manufacturer of the Steam Deck, is already providing Valve with feedback on the new operating system. Moreover, earlier leaks included renders of a new Steam controller as well as specialized controllers for VR headsets, which also indirectly point to Valve working on a stationary device. If this device avoids the usual limitations of traditional consoles, which require specific game ports from PC, it could be extremely intriguing. Apple is exploring new ways to boost the appeal of Vision Pro through a partnership with Sony, as the company has managed to sell only 500,000 Vision Pro devices since their launch in February this year. To improve the situation, the tech giant plans to collaborate with Sony to support gaming VR controllers, according to Mark Gurman from Bloomberg. Negotiations between the companies have been ongoing for several months, and if successful, PlayStation VR2 controllers will become additional accessories for Vision Pro users. Gurman notes that these controllers will not only enhance the gaming experience, but also improve productivity and media editing in Vision OS. Despite the fact that PlayStation VR has not been particularly successful, Sony has no plans to abandon its virtual reality headset. On the contrary, the company intends to continue developing its VR device and implementing new features. For instance, hand tracking functionality will soon be introduced to PlayStation VR 2, allowing some new games to be played even without PlayStation controllers. As for new games for the second VR headset, the situation is a bit more complicated. Sony itself is unlikely to produce major exclusive titles for virtual reality. However, the number of games from third-party developers is expected to grow significantly, largely because the headset has become much more affordable and its user base has surpassed 1.5 million. This growth has also been aided by the ability to connect the headset to a computer via an adapter. In one of the recent console news episodes, I mentioned that Sony had signed an exclusive agreement with Take-Two regarding GTA 6. While the details remain undisclosed, former president of Sony's European division, Chris Deering, told Games Industry that the temporary exclusivity of GTA 3 for the PlayStation 2 was a forced measure driven by fear of the emerging competitor, Xbox. This move, as it turns out, allowed the PlayStation 2 to become the best-selling console in history. After all, the GTA series has always been hugely appealing to players, and many bought a PlayStation 2 just to avoid waiting for its release on other devices. This leads to the question, could Sony do the same this time and secure temporary exclusivity for their console, even if just for a month? For instance, similar to what Microsoft did with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which launched yesterday on Xbox and will only arrive on PlayStation 5 in the spring of next year. At first glance, it may sound crazy, but considering that Xbox has entered a fierce competition by acquiring Activision and bolstering its Game Pass with day one releases of major titles like STALKER, such a move could be a strong response from Sony. Speaking of this, it seems that From Software is far from the only studio Sony is eyeing for acquisition. At the moment, PlayStation is reportedly in talks with several major publishers, including Ubisoft, Take-Two, and Square Enix. who will ultimately sell to Sony and whether their games will become PlayStation exclusives, especially considering the company's new policies, remains unclear. Personally, my bet is on From Software and Ubisoft. Sony has a long-standing and strong relationship with From Software, and Ubisoft, teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, appears ready to consider almost anything. Acquiring these studios would be a solid response to Microsoft's purchase of Activision Blizzard. For PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, a free version of Gran Turismo 7 called My First Gran Turismo has been released. Essentially, it's a kind of tech demo aimed at newcomers to the series. It offers several racing tracks, a training center to learn basic driving skills, music rally mode, thematic races, and time trials. Players can also collect cars, learn about their history, and practice in free mode. Upon completing this game, you can transfer your progress, including 18 cars, to the full version of Gran Turismo 7. It's a great way to get acquainted with the series and decide whether or not to purchase the full game. Renowned and reliable insider Bill Kuhn has uncovered some intriguing information. The developers of It Takes Two and A Way Out have scheduled the release of their new project for the 6th of March 2025. The announcement is expected to take place at the Game Awards 2024. Considering the 2-year development cycle and Hazelight Studios' track record, the project promises to be another hit in the co-op genre for 2 players. Well, we're eagerly awaiting the next great game for couch co-op. Returning to the 30th anniversary of PlayStation, not everyone at Sony initially believed in the success of the first console. Former executive Sean Layden shared insights into the early days of the legendary console in an interview with Eurogamer. Many company leaders considered the console project reckless, questioning why they should invest in such a risky venture and compete with giants like Nintendo and Sega. One of the key decisions was focusing on third-party developers. Sony invested in a variety of genres, from music games to hardcore action titles, which allowed it to carve out its own niche. Layden also recalled the disastrous launch of the PlayStation 3, calling it the company's Icarus moment. According to him, this period taught Sony a critical lesson. Games, not additional features like those emphasized in the PS3, should always be the priority. This principle proved decisive for the success of the next generation, the PlayStation 4. Digital Foundry has confirmed that players should anticipate a portable PlayStation console. According to them, the release of a new handheld console from Sony is only a matter of time. This time, the development of the handheld was confirmed by Digital Foundry specialist John Linneman. Digital Foundry has known about this project for several months, albeit without specific details. Previously, renowned and reliable insider Tom Henderson and Bloomberg also reported on its development. In my opinion, the reveal and release of the portable console will coincide with the next generation, PlayStation 6. Insider compilations suggest that Sony recently began working on this device, likely inspired by the success of the PlayStation Portal. A new system update has been released for the PlayStation 5, with its main feature being an improved data transfer process between consoles. No other significant features were announced, aside from the standard performance and system speed enhancements. That's a quick piece of news, as there's not much else to add. It seems that the second trailer for GTA 6 could be released very soon. Rockstar has updated the playlist on their official YouTube channel for the first time in a year. Enthusiasts noticed that the official playlist was modified, and they speculate that the second trailer has already been uploaded, but is currently hidden from public view. If this is true, we might see the trailer even before its official release, as happened last year when it leaked early due to being included in YouTube's scheduled publications. Fans have also theorized that, based on Rockstar's approach to promoting Red Dead Redemption 2, the company tends to release one trailer per year. The last GTA 6 announcement was on the 5th of December, 2023. Therefore, considering the upcoming holiday season, many believe Rockstar could stir up some excitement soon. Good news for Call of Duty fans. Treyarch has announced that from the 13th to the 20th of December, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 will host free access days. During this period, players can enjoy zombie mode, classic multiplayer, including the new Hacienda map, and a festive version of Nuketown. A whole week of generosity in the latest Code to let players dive in and have their fill. The first installment of the Arma franchise for PlayStation, titled Arma Reforger, is set to release on consoles, including the PlayStation 5. The game's store page is already available on the PlayStation Store. Developers of this multiplayer shooter have shared a few details about the upcoming PS5 release. Crossplay between platforms will be available at launch, as will support for the PlayStation 5 Pro. However, mod support is planned to be implemented later. The events of Arma Reforger take place during the Cold War on 2 islands, Everon spanning 51 square kilometers, and Orland covering 10 square kilometers. In conflict mode, players capture points using weapons and vehicles from either the US or the USSR. Additionally, there's a second mode called Game Master, which allows players to create their own scenarios. Machinima Games, the developers behind the new Indiana Jones game, have shared some key details about their project. The game will feature both linear levels focused on narrative and thrilling action, as well as large, semi-open areas that players can freely explore. According to CEO Jens Andersen, the structure will include two main types of gameplay: linear levels designed to tightly control the story and create cinematic action sequences reminiscent of the films, semi-open areas intended for free exploration, puzzle solving, and uncovering secrets, including new abilities for Indiana Jones. Anderson emphasized that the game will reward players who stray from the main path not just with collectible items, but with more significant incentives such as intriguing mysteries or challenging puzzles. The initial OpenCritic score of 87 out of 100 indicates that the game delivers a rich campaign, engaging story, excellent characters and voice acting, highly detailed locations, outstanding cinematics, and memorable antagonists. However, some drawbacks were noted. The combat system might not appeal to everyone, the AI is somewhat lacking, and stealth mechanics could be better. According to Rafael Colantonio, founder of Arcane Studios and game designer of Dishonored and Prey, Stalker 2 is the game of the year. He praised its high level of atmosphere, the harshness of its world, and the freedom of exploration. Colantonio also mentioned that the last game he enjoyed as much as Stalker 2 was Baldur's Gate 3. While he acknowledges the game's flaws, he emphasizes that in the context of this year's releases, Stalker 2 stands out for its uniqueness and deserves a spot in the top games of 2024. Now, we eagerly await the resolution of its issues, and a PlayStation 5 release would be a fantastic addition. This week has truly become a gold mine for free-to-play game releases. Just a couple of days ago, the spiritual successor to Overwatch, Marvel Rivals, was released. Essentially, it's the same Overwatch experience, but this time you play as Marvel characters. At launch, the roster includes 33 heroes such as Spider-Man, Wolverine, Iron Man, Venom, and others. Players are greeted with a zero season right from the start, with the first full season set to kick off in January. The developers plan to support the game for years, rolling out regular updates with new characters, game modes, and events. In my opinion, it's pretty solid. Compared to Conquered, even this game feels like a masterpiece. Still, it's a shame that Sony didn't even try to release their own free-to-play title in a similar vein. Another free release from last week for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series is the football simulator UFL. The game has a decent rating in the PlayStation Store, 3.85 out of 5 after 14,000 reviews. For comparison, FC25 scored 3.09 out of 5 after 45,000 reviews. The main question everyone has is whether the game is playable, and yes, it is. Personally, I don't have any negative impressions after more than 40 matches. It's a great option for an evening session, whether solo or with friends. Of course, microtransactions are present, but it's hard to assess their impact on gameplay and balance for now. We'll have to wait and see over time. However, to buy a top-tier player without spending money, you'll need to play between 150 and 200 matches, completing daily and weekly challenges along the way. If the developers continue to improve the game technically and enhance its seasonal aspects, it's quite possible that it could become a competitor to the FC series. And on that note, thank you all for watching. These were the top console news highlights from the past week. To make sure you don't miss anything in the future, subscribe to the channel and don't forget to support the video with a like. Thanks for your attention, and see you next time.